The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
It's coming.
All these voices. All these voices.
They're not yours. You had no right to them when you were alive, and you have no right to them when you're dead. That's what it sounded like. Good, you know who I am. And you know I'm not playing. You're going to let those women go. In Jesus' name, you're going to let those women go.
Is there a demon here watching us right now? Watching us right now.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Staring into the Abyss. I am your host, horror author James Hershey Jr. With me, as always, my co-host, old boy James Ash. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing pretty good. How's everybody tonight?
Tonight should be a pretty interesting show. We've done multiple shows in the past on kind of the edges of what we're going to be talking about tonight. We did a show called What Are Demons and Where Do They Come From? That's on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/James Hershey Jr. We did a show called The Origin of Monsters, where we talk about the origins of a lot of the mythological creatures and all that kind of stuff that also ties into the What Are Demons and Where Do They Come From show. And this one is a kind of an interesting idea. What if all of those things from legends and myth and mythologies and stuff like that, what if all of them are based on reality? What if a lot of those creatures actually existed? Okay, and this isn't just a speculative show, because also what if we already have the evidence of it? Right? We've already found a lot of these things. So that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. I think it's a kind of a fun idea for a show. So first of all, let me kind of give a summary of all of those former shows in a couple sentences. Okay, it's not going to be in depth at all. If you want that, go to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/James Hershey Jr. and check out those shows. You'll learn a hell of a lot. But essentially what this boils down to is Genesis chapter 6 in the Bible. In that chapter, they talk about the angels falling from heaven, giving up their first estate to mate with women because they thought women were pretty hot, right? So they came down to earth and they laid with the daughters of man. And that's what created the Nephilim, which were the giants. Okay? When the giants died, they didn't have a soul to go to heaven, so their spirit remained here on earth. And that is what we know as demons today. Okay? In the Origin of Monsters show, we talked about how like the centaurs, minotaurs, satyrs, those kind of things developed the exact same way. Because it talks about that not only did they mate with women, but also with all manner of other creatures, because they were very mischievous and randy, so to speak, the way they used to say it without being dirty. They liked to have fun, and they had fun with all manner of animals and people and all kinds of stuff, okay? So, in other words, if they would mate with a horse, right, that's where you would get a centaur. If they would mate with a bull, that's where you would get a minotaur. Mate with a fish, you'd get a mermaid, those kind of things. Okay, they talk about that in Genesis 6 and also the book of Enoch. They talk about that. So that's what that show was about. So as far as like the actual evidence of this actually happening, okay, not only do we have the biblical evidence, which there's a lot to that, and I can go in depth on why the stuff in the Bible should be treated historically and not just as fantasy. You know, and I'll give you a short version of that as well. We know Jesus existed. He was a historical figure. We know that he died in crucifixion. That is historically documented. We also know that he rose after 3 days and walked around. And there's over 400 witnesses that said that happened. And a lot of those witnesses weren't Christians. They weren't people that believed in Jesus. They were people that didn't like Jesus. And they mocked him. You know what I mean? And even those people said, yeah, man, this dude came back from the dead. You know, there's over a dozen people that were scholars at the time that wrote histories, that we get a lot of ancient history from those authors of what we say, this happened in Rome and this happened here and this happened there. The reason we know those things is because these historians wrote it down back then. And we accept all of that stuff that they said as true for all these other things. They also talked about Jesus Christ. And they talked about him being crucified and coming back after 3 days back to life. Okay, so that's historically documented. We also know that a lot of the cities from the Bible actually existed. Archaeologists have found them. We know that there was a worldwide flood, and we know that it took place around the time the Bible said it took place. Okay, that is historically documented. We know through DNA evidence and genetic evidence that around that time of the flood, there was either a single pair or a small group, not only of people, but of every animal as well. We're not talking fish and stuff, we're talking normal land animals. That all of those go back to either a single pair or a small group originating around the time of the flood. Okay, that's exactly what the Bible talks about. There's so many things like that the Bible tells us happened that we know for a fact happened. Okay, so the Bible should be looked at, whether you believe in God or not, the Bible should be looked at as a historical book, because that's exactly what it is. It gives you a history of the world, of what happened. Not the full history, obviously, but you can trust what's in the Bible as far as if it says it happened, okay? But not only the Bible do we have to go by, we also have science to go by. You know, let's do a few. The Hobbits, okay? Everybody knows the Hobbits from Tolkien and the Lord of the Rings. They're also in a lot of other mythologies. Hobbits, gnomes, dwarfs, all these little creatures, right? These little humanoid creatures. Well, science says that there was a small humanoid creature exactly like that existed. Its name was Homo florensis, okay? They found it off the island of Florence. And the evidence says that these things lived not just in ancient past, but even like 10,000 years ago they were still around. And maybe even sooner than that. Okay? That's just the evidence that they have right now is 10,000 years, but they suspect they were here a lot more recently than just 10,000 years as well. So we know that there was an actual creature that you could say was a hobbit or a dwarf or a gnome, something like that. Those little bitty humanoid type creatures. We know they existed. We have midgets today. Tiny little people, right? We know why there are midgets, dwarfism, all that kind of stuff. We understand the science of it, but that doesn't change the fact that they're tiny little people, that they're not full-size people, okay? Giants. We know that there were giants that existed, not just because the Bible says so, but because we have actual skeletal evidence of giants. We have newspaper articles of giants. We have photographs of bones that are humongous from back in the day, before like civilization the way it is now. We're talking like Wild West and before days, where the newspapers would print stories about giant bones being found all the time. Okay? So we know that those things actually existed. We also know that there was an early hominid species called Gigantopithecus that actually existed. Okay? A lot of people think that that's what Bigfoot probably is now, that it's still around, just in small numbers in isolated areas, and we call it Bigfoot or Sasquatch or Yowie or Skunk Ape or whatever, right? The Yeren, all kinds of different names for it in different areas of the world. But a lot of people think that that's what that is Gigantopithecus, okay? Mermaids, let's take that for example. There are a lot of tales of mermaids all throughout mythologies, all throughout the old sea tales and stuff. People used to take it very, very seriously and warn about it, okay? The Bible talks about it. Mythologies talk about it. And there are some videos of what appears to be a mermaid type creature swimming around very, very deep that some of those subs got footage of. Okay? Is it actually a mermaid or is it some other sea creature? I don't know. You know, I wasn't there to see it, but there is enough there to look at it and say, maybe it could be. Okay? So that's another one that is a possibility. We also know that there are tons and tons and tons of tales and legends and mythologies of dragons. Okay, now this is not just in our fairy tales. The Bible talks about dragons. All of the mythologies talk about dragons in every single area of the world where there was civilization. they have tails of dragons. We also know that we have found skeletal remains of all kinds of various dinosaur creatures. Some of which, like the pterodactyl and things like that, are giant flying creatures. So it is easy to understand how, if some of these things survived and lived until fairly recent times, that it is absolutely possible that people would see those and refer to them as dragons. Okay, we call them dinosaurs today, but when they would find the bones of these things in the past, they always called them dragons. Okay, so maybe what dragons are simply a winged flying dinosaur species that survived until modern day. And you might say, well, that's a crazy idea that a dinosaur could survive until modern times. Not really so crazy, because there's a whole bunch of species on Earth right now that are alive and well that existed alongside the dinosaurs. You know, multiple forms of shark did. The great white shark existed at the exact same time as the megalodon shark. As a matter of fact, it outcompeted the megalodon and might be kind of responsible for either the megalodon's extinction or at least its numbers going down so low that we barely ever see them and people think they're extinct. Okay, they did a whole special during Shark Week one time that I watched on this about how they existed at the exact same time and how the great white shark could outmaneuver a megalodon, was much faster and had a much tighter turn radius, and it would actually attack the gills of the megalodon shark and could actually kill a megalodon. And then a bunch of sharks could come in and have a feeding frenzy and feast on the thing, you know. So it's no stretch of the imagination to say, well, it's possible that some dinosaur species have survived. Okay, let's look at the land of legend today, what we believe exists today. Things like Champ from Lake Champlain, like Nessie from Loch Ness. Okay, a lot of people think that that's a plesiosaur. Now, a plesiosaur is an aquatic dinosaur that a lot of people think still exists today. Okay, look at Mokele Mimbe down in the Congo. That is another species of dinosaur that has survived up until today. Now, you might say, well, that's just a legend, but all of the people there say that it's real. They've witnessed it. There are people that have actually given statements saying that they saw that thing many, many times. Now, these are the actual tribes of the area. It's not just a legendary creature to them. It's not something that they talk about but never see. That's something that they've seen multiple times. So all that is this dinosaur species that has survived because there's food for it and it's in a location that doesn't have civilization. Well, we're really not. All you have is like local tribes, and they're not civilized people. They're still living the way that they've lived for thousands of years. So there's still plenty of habitat, still plenty of food for the thing, and not a whole lot of threat because they don't kill it because they view it as sacred. Okay, now you might say, well, they're just backwoods kind of savage people. You know, they're stupid. They don't know anything. Well, they talked about the silverback gorilla in that same area. They talked about that a lot, that it actually existed. It wasn't a legendary creature, that they had seen it and seen it and seen it, and nobody believed in it. Everybody thought it was bullshit. They thought that it didn't exist. But now we recognize the silverback gorilla as an actual species because we've actually seen it. Okay? I think Mokele Mimbe is the exact same thing. I think it exists. I think it's out there. Maybe not in huge numbers, and it's definitely in isolated areas. But one day I think we will find it. And it will be recognized that it actually exists. Okay? So I think dragons are exactly the same. That they did exist up until modern times. We have tons and tons and tons of mythologies and legends from England talking about knights fighting dragons and dragons tearing up towns and stuff. Okay, that's not just storybook stuff, man. They talk about that to the point where on a lot of the crest for the royal families, they have dragons on them. Same thing with China. You know, China takes it very, very seriously that it's a real creature. Now, do any dragons exist today? Probably not. We probably wiped them out. Or if we didn't wipe them out, there's only a few left. You know, and we just don't ever see them because they stay to themselves and stay the hell away from us because we always kill them. But I think during the Middle Ages times, I think that they went on a killing spree and wiped as many of these things out as they could because they were dangerous. People forget today because we have it so easy. Well, we don't really have anything that's actively trying to kill us all the time that we have to really worry about. We're kind of the top of the food chain. We're the baddest dude on the block and nobody messes with us. You know what I mean? But it wasn't always like that. For a good portion of our lives as a species, I mean, not our individual lives, but our existence as a species, there were a lot of things that wanted to eat us. Just going back to the time of like the Lewis and Clark expedition where we were just starting to move westward and discover the country, right? Even in those times, those people had to deal with wolves, like big scary wolves that would kill you. They had to deal with big cats in North America, jaguars, stuff like that, in North America that would attack you. Okay? They had to deal with cougars, which we still have some cougars, but nowhere near the amount that we used to have. There was a lot of animals that were really, really dangerous. And what did we do as mankind? We said, well, man, these damn wolves are a problem. These grizzly bears are a problem. We got to do something about them. Every time we get around one, it kills us. So we're tired of our people dying. Let's wipe these damn things out. And that's what we've done as a species. Whenever we have something that's dangerous like that hurts us, and you got to worry about, we kill it until we don't have to worry about it anymore. When old boy gets on here, he can probably tell you, because he lives in California. California used to have a real problem with grizzlies. And they murdered them all. Now, there might be a few grizzlies still in California somewhere, but their numbers used to be a lot bigger. And they had an active campaign to wipe them sumbitches out because they were attacking and eating people. Same thing with the wolves all through the western states. And what I think is crazy now is they're trying to reintroduce wolves to a lot of these areas. They're actually bringing in wolves and dropping them off in the wild out there so they can repopulate the area with wolves. Because, all the tree huggers, they're like, oh, wolves are so pretty. Aren't they wonderful, majestic creatures? No, man, they will eat your face off. That's why we killed them off in the first damn place. They're talking about trying to reintroduce the grizzly bear to areas in California and in that area of the states around it. That's insanity. I don't think people realize how dangerous these things are. I have no problem with grizzlies being up in Alaska where people aren't. Or up in Canada, something like that. But you don't want them wandering into population centers because they will do a hell of a lot of damage. And the sad truth, which is a sad thing to say here, what I'm about to say, but it's true. The sad truth is there's not a whole lot of room for a lot of wildlife anymore. Human beings are kind of a virus if you think about it, man. We just kind of spread out and we destroy everything. And that's kind of what we've done to our country. You look around, especially a lot of these big cities and stuff, man, it's almost no green anywhere. It's a concrete jungle. You've heard that saying before. That's because that's exactly what it is. There's concrete everywhere. There's nothing for these animals to eat. I know I'm from the mountains of Virginia, and in my area what's happening is people are dying, the older people, and they leave their land to their kids. Well, the kids don't want to farm anymore. They don't want to do those things. So instead of leaving it as farmland and forest, they sell it. Because developers come in and say, man, we'll give you a couple $1 million for that piece of land. And they're like, well, shit, man, give me that money. I'm going to go live in Florida or something. So that's what they do is they sell and they go and they live somewhere else and they have a good life. Well, the developers come in and they cut down all the trees off the land and they build a shit ton of houses. And then they sell the houses and make a ton of money. But then the problem is all of that habitat is gone for the animals. And also you have a bunch of people that move here that are dumb shits from the city who don't know how to live in the country. The infrastructure can't handle the people because it's not designed to handle that many people. The road systems can't handle it. It's a giant clusterfuck. That's what's happening in my area. It's getting terrible. Now, luckily, I own a big 30-acre area up in the mountains, so I got a buffer, It's not as big a buffer as I'd like, but it's a buffer at least. So I'm going to be good for at least another 5-10 years before I really got to worry. But the towns here, it's getting crazy. And that's just a microcosm of what we've done around the whole country. So my point is, there's not the habitat anymore to support a lot of these animals. Now, if you're talking about reintroducing wolves and grizzlies and big cats and stuff like that to the United States, those are predators. Okay, you don't have to have a whole bunch of greenery for the predators to eat, because they don't eat grass, they don't eat leaves, they don't eat shit like that. But they do eat the things that do eat the grass and the leaves and stuff like that. And if you don't have the grass and the leaves and the stuff like that for the things that eat the grass, the leaves, and the stuff like that to eat, there ain't going to be a whole lot of things that eat grass and leaves and stuff like that. So then what do the predators do? If they don't have herbivores to eat, guess what they're going to eat? You. Right? Maybe not you if you're a big tough guy, carries a weapon. They might try, but usually they don't mess with bigger people. But they are going to go after your kids. They're going to go after your dogs. They're going to go after your cats. They're going to go after the elderly. That's who they're going to go after. Because they're going to eat. They're going to eat somebody or something. They're not going to suddenly turn around and say, oh, I think I'll just have some cheeseburgers from McDonald's. That's not how it works. I saw a funny video, actually, of a guy that trains bears trying to give a bear cheeseburgers from McDonald's. And he could not get that damn bear to eat them. That bear's like, what is this garbage? This is not food. I'm not eating this shit. And the bear just kept knocking it around. Get out of here. The guy could not get him to eat it. So that's a little funny aside, that stuff is not even fit for a grizzly bear to eat. You know what I mean? But they're going to eat something. So they're going to eat us, or they're going to eat our kids or our dogs or something like that. And they're also going to root through our garbage looking for scraps to eat because they're hungry. So then that creates a whole nother problem where you got these things getting into garbage cans and making damn messes and just being a nuisance. And what will end up happening is we're going to end up killing them again because they're a pain in the ass. That's why we got rid of them in the first place. You know? So it can't support it. So there's no doubt in my mind that a lot of these things actually did exist. Okay? Sasquatch, Gigantopithecus. Giants. Okay? You got Michele Membe, is an aquatic dinosaur. Like a brontosaurus type dinosaur, but smaller. Nessie and Champ, plesiosaur. The Hobbit, Homo floresiensis. Okay, there's a whole bunch of stuff like that. So I think not only are a lot of those myths based on that nugget of truth that we talk about a lot, but we actually have scientific proof of a lot of these things existing. People just don't understand it, right? They look at something like, say, Homo floresiensis that I was talking about, right? The little hobbit creature. They look at something like that and they say, well, that's interesting. There was a tiny hominid, around 10,000 years ago that lived on this one island. That's kind of neat. But then they forget, well, wasn't there also a tribe in the Amazon that we called the Pygmies? Wasn't that a thing? Yeah, there was a tribe of tiny people. Shit, that's a lot like the Homo floresiensis, isn't it? Living in modern times. And that's a lot like the hobbits of myth and the dwarfs and the gnomes and the elves and all these kind of things. So I think all of it's based not just on a nugget of truth, but on actual reality. I think the world looked a whole lot different before. And a lot of things that we think of today as fairy tales and of nonsense were everyday things back then that people saw all the time. And if you would go back to that time period and say, you're crazy, man. Hobbits don't exist. Oh, you're crazy, man. Dragons don't exist. They'd be like, oh, yeah? Well, what's that up there in the sky? Because you better duck because that sumbitch going to eat you. I think that's the way it was. I think it was a whole different world. And I think nowadays, simply because our ancestors, God bless them, killed most of this shit, that we don't have to deal with it anymore. So we look at it as that didn't never exist. That's bullshit. When in reality, it's not bullshit at all. It was something very scary and very dangerous that actually was there. And luckily, our ancestors took care of that problem for us. You see that on a smaller scale when you look at history. If you were to go back to World War II and you were to tell those people, oh, come on, man, the Nazis didn't exist. There were no concentration camps. All that's bullshit. Right? If you were to say that to those people, they'd say, what are you talking about? My brother is fighting them right now. Right? But today you have stupid people that say the Holocaust didn't happen, when we know it did. Like, you can literally go to Germany and you can walk through some of the old camps. Some of them are still there. You can go look at them. But somehow it never happened. It's nonsense. But that's the world we live in today, where you have people that don't know anything who claim a bunch of stupid shit that we already know the truth on. You see it all over the place. You got the Holocaust deniers, you got the moon landing deniers, you've got the flat earthers. I could keep going. There's more stupid theories and stupid things than I can name in an hour show. We'd be heard the whole show. But you actually have people that believe that crap. So it's no surprise to me that you have people that don't understand history. They don't understand the fossil record. They don't understand the different discoveries that have been made, and they can't connect those dots. But I think any thinking person, if you really sit down and think about it, and you say, well, wait a minute, was there something that looked like this? Was there something that existed that if I didn't know what it was, if some egghead teacher didn't tell me this is this, I wouldn't have thought it was something else. I mean, there's a lot of that out there, man. And I'm sure old boy's going to get into this. I'm getting ready to throw it to him. I'm sure he's going to get into this. But if you look at a lot of the old cave paintings and stuff like that, and some of the artwork from ancient Egypt and all those kind of things, you see a lot of alien stuff there too, which is really interesting. Now, I'm sure that all of those different people from different areas didn't get together and say, hey, let's all draw pictures of this weird looking alien thing. It's going to look exactly like this. And let's draw pictures of spaceships that are going to look exactly like this. That way in the future, in the 1950s, when they start making movies where teenagers go in a car to a thing called a drive-in and they make out instead of watching the movie that's up on the screen is going to show these things. Let's do that. Like, that didn't happen. Those people drew what they saw, because they also have drawings of all the animals that were in that area that they were hunting and interacting with. So a lot of people dismiss evidence because it doesn't fit their narrative. And one thing I've always said, and I truly believe, is you examine every bit of evidence. You look at it all. You don't ever discount something just because it doesn't fit your preconceived notion. Because your preconceived notion can change, and it should change, depending on the evidence. Anytime you're married to any idea, anytime that you take any idea and you say, well, this is true no matter what. No matter what the evidence says, this is true. And if any evidence comes out that disproves this, that means the evidence is wrong. Anytime you do that, you're a fool. You should question with boldness everything. Nothing is off limits. Question everything, even up to the existence of God. Now, I know a lot of Christians might go, whoa, man, what the hell are you talking about? We're supposed to have faith. Yes, we're supposed to have faith. That's 100% true. But also, you always have to question what you believe. Because if what you believe cannot stand up to questions, it's not much of a belief, is it? Right? If it's true, then you can question it, and it'll stand. If it's true, you can look at history, you can look at the science, and you can say, okay, this is real. Because it's true. If it's not, it's a fairy tale. So question everything. And open your mind and think about things, So I think that if you look at the totality of all the evidence, the historical evidence, the archaeological evidence, all of the written evidence of the myths and the legends and the histories, I think it's fairly fair to say that a lot of these things actually did exist. And I think a lot of things have been proven through science, and we just haven't connected those dots. So that being said, I'm going to throw over to old boy. and see what he has to say about all this. And then I'll be back after he's done. Go ahead, brother.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. I want to thank everybody. Um, this is a show that we kind of agreed on doing. I agree with him. I think a lot of the stuff he was talking about existed. I think people don't realize the world. Like, if you read everything about vampires, that's the old world. I think the old world was full of stuff. And no, we didn't kill everything. Some of it went in hiding, or some of it blended. And that is just the way it is. I can tell you this right now. Dragons, hobbits, elves, giants. What else was there? Like he said, centaurs, minotaurs, all that stuff. The Hydra, the seven-headed snake or dragon, what the hell, whatever the fuck it was, Medusa, stuff like the Titans. If you believed in like myth, Greek, there's a lot of Titans and monsters and a lot of shit in that. And if you, like he was saying, getting up to what I was saying, there's stuff written on walls that shows people flying in the air. Let's just remember again, let's go back to reality, and that we only know about 5% of what's in the ocean. So people are just assuming there's nothing there when there really is. Probably stuff that we don't want to know. Space, we only know what, maybe 1%, maybe, of what space is. Everybody forgets that's infinity. I think people think because they don't see something, it doesn't exist. And like James says, I'm glad he said what he said, especially with religion. You're always going to question something. And there's always going to be something that comes out that could change everything you thought you knew. And there's stuff that always happens. Now, I believe a lot of stuff was destroyed or killed or hid. We hid a lot of stuff, and they still do. And they know it still exists, and they use it to take care of certain people they want to take care of. I believe that. I believe that they have stuff that they mess around with, and we know it. I'll tell you a story. There was something out in the middle of the desert, and George Air Force Base used to be out here, and we used to call it the Kraken. And it was a fucking giant monster. I don't know what the hell it was, but it was huge. It must have been 7 feet tall. I've seen it. One time we were walking, and it cleared a 6-foot fence, and just the top of his foot hit, and he ran off in the desert. And it looked like a lion with a coyote's body. It was one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. An ostrich kind of body too. One time we were right, and you see coyotes and mountain lions sometimes where I was at. I saw this fucking thing. It looked like it was a lion with like a kangaroo body. I don't know what the fuck it was. It was weird. And it was nothing I've ever seen. I've seen it twice. So I think it was something they were doing in those bases back then, and I know they were. And I live by Wrightwood and Big Bear and Bigfoot. Sometimes you'll hear him once in a while in the San Bernardino Mountains. He comes. I believe in Bigfoot. I believe there's different species of Sasquatch. I think the Yeti. Now, the Yeti's a whole different story. The Yeti could be, but I also think it has some magical powers with being in Tibet. I think it protects the Tibetan people. I think that the Sasquatch protects the forest in Canada and the United States. I believe that, and they scare people off in Texas. And they know what they're doing. They're smart as us or smarter. We don't know. Just because we don't see them, we don't know if they, especially how they have eluded everyone. They're very smart, probably even smarter than us. And a lot of people says, like he was saying, is how do we know another species of man branched off of the giants? And now that's what Sasquatch is. And all it is an ancestor of them. And they evolved to be smaller and survive this world. Because they can't be 50 feet tall, but they can survive off of being 8 or 9 feet tall. That's a different story. Another theory from your old boy. Sometimes that mind goes different. But I believe these things existed. I believe me and James have always done this. I believe we live in different times. I believe that. I believe we're the Winchester brothers, another form of them. I believe that we existed at these, and this is just something we've always just keep on reoccurring doing. It may be a show, it may be a group of people we were involved with. Back then, we were probably slayers of some kind. Um, and it just kept going on, and hunters, vampire. We've probably done it all in other past, and I believe that. I believe maybe that people are gonna get mad about that, but I do believe that. I believe that I was something, and that's why I'm always gonna be like this since day one. Since I was a kid, I remember going to the libraries, guys, and getting. For some things, I love giants. The bigger, the better. And I would go and get Godzilla books, the old ones, like the cool, like Godzilla King Kong. I'd keep on getting it every time, and then I would get stuff about Bigfoot and aliens and ghosts and stuff like that, and combustion and Champ, like he was talking about Champ in Canada, and I I think that thing exists because so many people have seen it. And it's not just what happens in Nessie. They just seen Nessie again. They think it's in the ocean. I mean, not the ocean, in Scotland Lake. They think he exists. Just like there's the water horse that lives in Brazil, and they showed it. They said the damn thing was up, and then hurry up and jumped in the water. And then there was one where it was in Brazil, and you could see these blue fins, and they were beautiful. But this thing must have been 10, 20 feet long or longer. And it looked like a snake, but it had like a weird face. There's stuff in those lakes and oceans and rivers that we don't know. We don't know everything, and people assume this, and this is what happens. One day aliens are going to come here, and people are going to say, what the fuck? I didn't know. Yes, you did. We've been fucking telling you for hundreds of years, and now we've been telling you on the show for at least 10. So don't give me that shit. You know there's shit that's been here. It's just people want to hide in a reality that they're safe. Like he said, concrete concrete jungle. It's the truth. And that's what happens. These creatures can't survive, and they're dying out, especially here. And I live in California. It used to be all desert. Now you hardly see any coyotes. And then the ones that do, they're just trying to get food. And the raccoons come out here now because they're starving. It's crazy. And it's because too many people are living in the desert. And we're getting overpopulated. And Eli Musk saying we're not. Yes, if you're in the ocean, we're fine. We haven't figured that out yet. They're making hotels and stuff like that, and they have a couple, but honestly, you would have to be able to survive a tsunami if it came. You'd probably have to fix that house 10 times every 5 years or something, because the glass is going to eventually go. You'd have to build a certain kind of glass, and you'd have to constantly watch it because the salt's always going to eat it out. We eat it away. It's not like being under regular water. It's salt constantly eating, and salt just eats through shit over so many times. Like those, when they put the oil rigs in there, they got to redo those every couple of years because the salt just in the algae and all that shit just eats everything away. The animals out there. That's how they found the megalodon and what's the other thing? The giant octopus and that alien. Did you see that one? It's like 60 feet long, and it's like weird alien looking thing. And now they're saying that octopuses weren't even from this world. And they said octopuses are the next to be able to evolve than anything else would be them if we go extinct, because they're fucking smart. Did you ever see they can unscrew anything? They can squeeze through anything, and they're fucking smart as fuck, dude. And there's just some of these things they look alien to us, and that's why I said I think there is something in the ocean. I think mermaids existed. I think they're not what we think. I don't think it looks like, Little Mermaid and stuff, but I think there's all kinds of shit they just hide. Now, prehistoric, I think, like he says, the giant Bakembe Mumbe, whatever, I'm fucking that name up. But Bakembe Mumbe or Membe, yeah, that's it, Membe. But they say it's real. They've killed it. I believe these people. Why these people ain't gonna lie, man? They have no. It's not like people out in the street. Well, I've seen motherfucking Bigfoot jump on my shitter. No, these people don't. There's no point of lying. They don't know anything about our life. A lot of people realize there's still people who live out of no man at all. They don't even know. They barely know. There's cannibals and stuff. You don't fuck with these people. They know how to kill you, and they survive. You know what's funny is these people have survived thousands of years, but we can't. We get sick on everything. It's because there's too many fucking people, man. You know what? In reality, like the Amish, why are these people still surviving and we're not? You know why? Because we were lazy. We weren't meant to do what we're doing. But it's humans wants to be comfortable as they can, and that's what's crazy about it. That our ancestors would probably hate us because of what we've become, and we're very, very lucky and spoiled because they didn't have to deal with the they had to fucking kill things to eat. They had to make fires. They had to make their own houses. They had to work all the fucking time. And I'm not talking 10 hours, 8 hours, 16, 17, 18-hour days and going to sleep for 4 or 5 hours and right back at it the next fucking day. And then on Sunday they would go to church because a lot of people who came, were in the 1800s and 1700s, they were mostly church people. They had a little church and they went to it. But that was it. That was the day of rest, and you got to spend time with the kids. But then you were at it, keeping the farm or going and working to keep your family. And you had 3 or 4 jobs, and you slept 3 or 4 hours, maybe, if you didn't take up the time of working where you catch a nap or two, 10, 30-minute nap somewhere if you got a lunch, if you were lucky. And that's what people did. And people don't know how hard it was to work. It was fucking ridiculous. It was bullshit what you had to do, and these people did it, like hand washing clothes and shoe polish. A lot of people don't realize the art of shoe crafting. Those people know what they're doing. Like, you have to know what you're doing cleaning shoes. It's not like you just get a thing and you're just cleaning it. They know what they're doing. They know how to brush it out in a certain way to make it perfect. That's what people did to make extra money. They cleaned chimneys. And I don't, it's just that back then they were stronger people, but they also believed in a lot of stuff that James was talking about, getting back into that. And up to 100 years, the book of Enoch was in the Bible and they took it out. It's a whole nother show, but that talks about stuff in Eden, unicorns and monsters and angels and demons and giants and all kinds of shit. Unicorns existed, but they're not what you think. I think a lot of the stuff that you see was either created by certain because witches exist too, and they did stuff. They knew how to bring stuff to life. Necromancy. That's bringing back the dead. They control it. That's what you have with the Wraith. They control the Wraith. Gets made by the necromancer. Necromancer is very. I believe it. I've studied necromancy. It's and not that's like not necromancy like necrophilia or anything like that. Necromancy is like you're playing with the dead. I don't do that. I just have read about it. You can control the dead. You can bring stuff like the Wraith that was like a soul and bring it to go after people. Necromancy is necromancer is just somebody you don't want to fuck with, dude. You really don't. I know a few of them. There's people I actually know. What a lot of people have to realize, these people can hurt you. They play with shit that it's not like a regular guy went out in the graveyard and did something and with his buddy. No, these are people who practice this shit all the time and they know what they're doing. And these things they're playing with are no joke. But they've been talking about this for years. Baba Yaba. And that was supposed to be that lady had 8 children and walked around with that cage. It looked like with the chicken legs. And that was supposed to be real. And all these creatures they talked about, they're all similar to all religions. If you read at it, they're all similar. Dragons, men of half human, half horse, giant cyclops, giant snake, 7 necks or 7 heads, all kinds of weird shit. Giant two griffins. I don't know if I believe in griffins though. I don't know if you like the ones with like they're half bird, half lion. I don't know if I believe that. I think that was just bullshit. Or if they did do it, I believe Merlin Merlin supposedly existed. I think Merlin and a few other wizards at that time brought shit and made them. Or they were, like James said, they were genetically formed that way and they fucking didn't want them because they were assholes and they were killing everything. So they had to get rid of them because they were too much of a fucking nuisance. Just like dragons. Dragons were awesome, but they're not going to share the skies with us, bro. You're not going to tell a 90-foot dragon, oh, get the fuck out of there. They're going to say, eat your fucking plane. They're not going to stop and talk to you. This is where I'm getting into these creatures. And dragons, if dragons were real right now, I'd be writing one. I'm not just trying to be funny. I would like that's my ultimate. I would have a black purple with red or black eye dragon like 67 feet high and fly that motherfucker over the place, and I would. And just so you go there, I don't know if you guys like How to Train a Dragon, the actual movie is coming out tomorrow. I'm gonna go see it. But dragons are just, I know James would want a dragon. Dragons are badass, dude. I would love to have a dragon, dude. Like I would. You want to come in my yard? Fuck, go ahead. There's no need of gun. There's no needing of a gun anymore. I'll let the dragon get him. He's either going to eat him or burn his ass or fucking shoot acid. But dragons are just, I've always liked dragons. I believe they exist. I believe they've had video of them. I know some of it's fake, but I believe dragons still exist to this day. And they're pretty much what we think. I think they're so smart though. They've lived for thousands of years. If dragons do exist, I think I believe that magical creatures did exist, and I still think they do. I think that they just, like the Lord of the Rings, when they take off and let the men have the Middle Earth, I think there's a lot of truth to that, to those movies. Not 100%. I think he knew something that everybody else didn't. And I think he found some kind of, because he always said there was some truth to his stories. And if you think about it, it makes sense. It was just a lot of stuff that people think were real back then. Elves, I believed, existed. Orgs, I don't know too much. I think that's bullshit. Trolls, I think, might have. Stuff like, dragons and griffins. I don't know. I still argue griffins, or I don't know but dragons existed. And I think a lot of these monsters he's talking about existed. And we're lucky they're gone, because they would have killed most of us if we didn't. Like James, I have to agree, and I'm going to 100% agree. I think that most of our ancestors killed these fuckers or made pacts with them, or some of them just didn't give a fuck and left. And I think that's what happened with aliens. We didn't kick their ass. They put us in chains for thousands of years, and they got tired of us, and they want to see what we ended up becoming. And that's probably what I think really what the truth is. And when they come back, they're not going to be happy. They might just say, fuck you. And there's nothing we're going to do about it. If they can visibly, I'm showing you this. Say that they show some of this shit. If they can go like this, we can't do nothing about it. They shot it and there's missiles, nothing's going to hit it. There's nothing we're going to do. We're going to get our asses kicked if we don't get destroyed. And this is a alien thing. And even James will tell you, we're not going to win that fight. Our technology doesn't even touch theirs. It's just, no, it's not even going to be worth even shooting one missile at them. It's not going to matter. It's not a smart idea. But that being said, I'll go ahead and throw it over to James. And I hope you guys enjoy the show, guys.
3 points. Pride, diet, griffins. Those are the 3 points I want to talk about that old boy talked about. We'll start with griffins. He said that griffins he doesn't think actually existed. Look at the book of Revelations. There's several things in the book of Revelations that are a creature that's made up of different creatures. One good example of that is the little creatures that are going to be stinging you, and you're just going to be suffering for months and months and months with the stings. They have like a tail of a scorpion and all this different stuff, right? There's multiple things like that in the book of Revelation, so check into that. I believe that those things exist. I believe those things are demonic. Okay, that's what the book of Revelation talks about, that they're sent up to torture the people that are left. So that could be what the griffin was something along those lines, right? Not saying griffins did exist, but just food for thought on that point. Okay, the point of food, diet. He talks about how the Amish and some of those tribes that still exist that don't interact with civilization, how they don't get sick and they can survive all this time and be wonderful. If you look at every group in the world that's like that, whether it is some of the remote Inuit type Eskimo people, whether it is people in small tribes in the Amazon or in Africa, or the Aborigines in Australia, one thing they all have in common, and the Amish and Mennonites as well, is their diet. They eat actual real food. See, the human body, when God designed us, He designed us to be strong. He designed us to be able to survive. That's why we have an immune system. Our white blood cells and our immune system kick everything's ass if we have proper nutrition, if we take care of ourselves. Our telomeres, which is in the mitochondria of the cell, they are coded for every single one of us to have a lifespan of 120 years, which is kind of interesting that science says that, because that's the lifespan that God said that we would have in the Bible, is 120 years, same lifespan. Now, how did cutting edge genetic research of today, how did those people that wrote the Bible all them many moons ago get that number exactly right? Kind of cool, huh? But that says every one of us should have a lifespan of 120 years. Now, why don't we? Because we don't eat real food. We eat food-like products. We eat garbage. We eat chemicals. Genetically modified stuff. Even the actual food that we eat that has some nutrition to it isn't in its original form. It's been selectively bred. It has been genetically modified. It contains all kinds of horrible chemicals. Even if you think you're doing good and you go down to the farmer's market and you buy something, fruits and veggies, and you're trying to be good, a lot of that stuff has stuff like glyphosate and everything in it. It's what the farmers use, the herbicides and stuff that they use, and the insecticides and the fungicides and all that, the stuff that they use in order to have a larger crop, a larger yield so they can make money. That stuff stays on it. And you can rinse it off, but it doesn't get it all off. The only way to truly neutralize the overwhelming majority of it is to soak it in baking soda and water for like 25 minutes and then wash it off after that. Because what happens is the baking soda actually neutralizes a lot of those poisons to where they become inert and they don't hurt you anymore. So that's one tip for you if you're trying to eat healthy, is even organic stuff. Organic you're not supposed to have to do, but there are still things on organics. Because say you have an organic farm and you're growing whatever you're growing, right? Organic corn, organic tomatoes, whatever. And the farmer next door is spraying the hell out of his crops with glyphosate and all kinds of insecticides and shit like that, right? Well, the wind blows, it's going to blow that shit right over on the organic stuff too. So there's a lot of organic stuff that has that nasty stuff on it as well still. So baking soda, water, 25 minutes, wash it off after that. That'll kill 90% of it. That'll neutralize most of it so that it won't get into your system. But that's why they lived a long, long time, is because they're eating actual food. Their immune system kicks ass and they don't get killed by stupid shit because they're eating actual food. They're not eating chemicals and garbage. If you give your system the nutrition that it needs, and you'll be healthy and you can survive. You're not going to get sick all the time. You're not going to have all the cancer and all the bullshit that we have in today's society. Most of that stuff was unheard of just a generation or two ago. You didn't have all that shit a generation or two ago. But now we do, because we're eating chemicals and we're injecting ourselves with all kinds of chemicals. It's silly, So that's the second point. And then pride. what was I going to say about pride? I do not remember what I was going to say, except for that pride was the first sin. Okay, so whatever I was going to talk about with pride, I done forgot. Something old boy talked about is it relates to that. So maybe I'll think of it later and come back to it. Probably won't because I'm old. See, people don't understand. I'm over 50 years old, man. I'm not. I know I don't look that old because I have a good diet and I take care of myself, but I'm getting old. So sometimes I don't remember exactly what I'm talking about. But anyway, love you guys. Appreciate you guys. I hope that you enjoyed this show, and I hope that you kind of try to think about things like that. You know, try to look at things and say, okay, this is what it says. Did anything like that actually exist? Is there anything like that that would relate? That we could say, yeah, man, that might be it, you know? Oh, I remember the pride thing. Look, see? Bam, snapped. I'm not that old yet. What I was going to say about the pride thing was old boy talks about that we don't know everything. But the reason why people discount this stuff all the time is because of pride, right? They think, well, we are this amazing species. We are so civilized and so advanced, and we know everything now. Science is so great. We know everything. But if you look all throughout history, pride is always the sin that gets you. That was the original sin, pride. That's why Lucifer fell, pride. Tower of Babel was pride. They wanted to reach up to God. They wanted to be on the level of God. That's why the languages got scattered, pride. It always comes down to pride. And pride, once again, is why we think we know everything. We think that these things can't exist. We think that oh, nothing like that could exist in the ocean. Because we'd know about it if it did, right? We don't know shit about the ocean, dude. There's massive amounts of the ocean we've never even been in. We don't know what's down there. But we claim, oh, there's no way. Right? The only way you can say something doesn't exist is if you've looked every square inch of the earth over and you can't find it. Have you looked everywhere? No, you haven't. Because people haven't been everywhere. So you have no idea if some of this stuff actually exists. And then when you add to that we have stuff that we have found that closely resembles the legends, well, to me, that's a home run, man. That's an easy layup. You know, that's saying, well, shit, it could be because look at this thing, right? That makes complete sense to me. So that being said, I love you guys. I'm going to throw it back over to old boy, let him give his shout outs and all that jazz, and then we'll wrap this puppy up. Go ahead, brother.
Thank you, brother. I want to thank everybody for listening to us on Parax Radio every Sunday nights at 12 a.m. Eastern, 9 Pacific. The Best Of Show, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific on Tuesday nights. You can check us out on YouTube, Spotify. You guys can follow us on both. Subscribe to James Hershey's YouTube page or Spotify page, Staring into the Abyss and We're Screwed. You can see it, find them both on there. You want merchandise, you go to Teespring, staringintoabyss.com. You can get shirts and stuff like that, hats, all kinds of stuff. Don't want to talk about it too much. We both have books out. You guys can find them anywhere. Just look up James Hershey Jr. or James Ash. I'm starting my new book soon, just so you guys know. I want to thank you guys. And my birthday is in a couple weeks. I'm going to be 47. I'm fucking getting old, guys. I'm 3 years from, and that's what's crazy when we started doing this show. It's 9 years this year. When we started in Halloween, it will be 9. I mean, not Halloween, on Christmas Day or fucking the day after. It's fucking gonna be 9 years since we've been doing Staring. So back then, James is 41 and I was about 39. No, not 39. I was about, I'm getting old myself. 35. It's fucking 35, man. 36. What the fuck? And look at me now. I'm a cult crazy following. People know me over the world as this crazy fucker, just like they know him. And the crazy thing is, you ask people in the paranormal world, they know who I am. Even the big names know who me and he is now. They know me. I'm very different. James is very different. James is a unique guy. His life and we could do a show with me and him on how we live our life, and you probably watch it because, like, I'm a different fucking person. I have a wife and a girlfriend, and one day we're gonna have them both on, and they can talk. And that should be an interesting show. But and But I'm very different. But other than that being said, I hope you guys have a good night. It's almost summertime, motherfuckers.
Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the show. The YouTube channel is youtube.com/James Hershey Jr. The merch store, if you want that, it's teespring.com. I don't know what the exact URL is anymore. It used to be teespring.com/staring into the abyss, but they did like monkey business with the URL. So the easiest way to find it if you want merch is to go to the YouTube channel, and in the description box of every video is a link that takes you straight to the store. So you can get shirts and cups and mugs and all kinds of shit. There's just tons of shit there. The store we don't really make money off of, because basically the price is right above what it costs me to make it, essentially. Like, I don't mark anything up. So like, if it costs me $7.99 to make it, you can buy it for $8. You know what I mean? I'm not interested in making money off of it. The reason that we even have a merch store is because we had a bunch of people ask us for it. They wanted merch, and so I said, well, fuck it, we'll just do a store and do it. You know, sometimes we like take whatever we make off the store, which is almost nothing, and donate it, shit like that. You know what I mean? We don't really care about that. But if you want the merchandise that's there, you know, for you, you can get hats and shirts and all kinds of stuff, staring and we're screwed and all that. Tails also. If you don't want it, it doesn't matter to me. But that's where you can find it. But the YouTube channel is the best place to see everything. Also, Spotify. It's Staring Into the Abyss and We're Screwed on Spotify. The Spotify channel has every episode of Staring. Now, all the stuff on Spotify, the majority of it is just audio. It's not the video like you get on YouTube. So right now, some of you are listening, well, probably most of you are listening to us on the radio, whether it's on an actual radio or one of the apps, the radio apps or something. But that's where the majority of the audience is for Staring. You guys are just getting audio too. But on the YouTube channel, you can actually see the show, right? You can see us in the studio and actually doing the show. The video is on YouTube. The video was on Spotify too, but I live up in the mountains and I have poo-poo internet. So it takes freaking forever to upload anything. So like when I do an episode of Staring, we'll record it and then I'll go back through and edit and everything and then upload it. Shit, it might take 5 or 6 hours to upload one show, you know? So then uploading this to YouTube takes that long, and then turning around and uploading it again to Spotify takes that long. And I got to the point where I said, you know what? I'm not spending my entire freaking day uploading, because when I upload, that means I can't watch TV, I can't do anything else, because like I have poo-poo internet, so like everything is slow, right? So Spotify is just audio. The radio obviously is just audio. If you want the video, youtube.com/James Hershey Jr. Go there, subscribe, check it out. Thousands and thousands of videos there. Every episode of Staring, every episode of Tales from the Abyss, every episode of We're Screwed, a bunch of other cool videos. So go check it out. Love you guys. Appreciate you guys. It's good to be back doing this. You know, we took a few weeks off. I talked about on the last episode of Staring that aired on the radio. I did a little bit that I recorded and then added it to a show that we had done, explaining what's going on. My mother-in-law had a medical emergency, and I went through kind of talking about that. So I've been off for a while because of that, and we're just getting back to it, and it's good to be back. I missed you guys. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. And as always, up to you to make up your own mind, and we will catch you on the next one. Till I speak to you again. Love many, trust few, and do harm to none. God loves you, and so do we. Bye-bye.
In order for the light to shine so brightly, the darkness must be present. Tune in every Monday at 10 o'clock for Dark Sun Rising on the Para-X Radio Network.
Hey, this is Lee.
And this is Michelle.
And this is Dustin from the Dead Zone.
Your source for everything paranormal, Para